everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be making and canning up some vegetable stock so that I have it on my pantry shelf ready to make whatever I need to make. This is a great winter canning recipe, something to use up all your scraps and whatever you have bopping around in the freezer, and to make it into something that you can keep shelf stable. So I'm going to be finishing up this recipe tomorrow because today I'm going to start making the stock and it's probably going to cook overnight. I have an 18-quart Nesco roaster here. Obviously you can just use a pot if you don't have this roaster, but these are pretty easy to find secondhand. I bought this one at my local Salvation Army. So I have about 15 or 16 quarts of water in here warming up, and I'm just going to put in all of my scraps and then some of the things recommended in the recipe. So here I'm making almost a double batch, a little less than a double batch. So I have a little less than 2 pounds of carrots, and then about 10 stalks of celery, and some garlic in here. So I'm just going to pour this all as carefully as I can into my roaster. And then the next thing I'm going to add is a bunch of just little scraps that I had in my freezer from when I've made other things in the past. So these are just scraps. These are all scraps from when I did a canning video with onions recently. These are all just onion scraps. I'm going to pour those all in here. Now I'm going to use these scraps rather than cutting up a bunch of onions. So I'm just going to mix this all around. And then we're going to add a few more ingredients. The recipe calls for 8 black peppercorns, so I'm almost doubling it. I'm going to do about 16. I think that's probably close enough. It calls for 3 bay leaves, so I'm going to put in 6. Seems good. And then 2 teaspoons of thyme, and the recipe calls for 2 large tomatoes chopped, and I don't have any tomatoes fresh right now, so I'm just going to use this can of tomatoes that I canned up last summer. So I'm just going to open this up and pour these in. And these are just crushed tomatoes. If I had more cans of diced, I would probably use diced. So I'm just going to pour this in. And that's about it. The recipe also calls for turnips and red peppers, but I don't have any of those right now, so this is what we're going to go with. And I'm just going to let this roast. I have it set on the highest at 450, just so it comes up to a boil. And once it's all simmering, I'll probably turn it down to about 300 to go overnight and get all of those lovely flavors mixed in. And then tomorrow I'll come back and we'll pressure can this together. So I will see you tomorrow when this is all cooked down. Good morning, everyone. It's the next day, and I have had my vegetables simmering in water overnight, and I'm going to get to canning. I have about 30 minutes before I need to start my first meeting at work, so we're going to move swiftly. The first thing I'm going to do is I have my jars here. They're cleaned with hot soapy water, and I'm just going to strain out kind of the big chunks out of this broth with this strainer. And I'm not going to press too hard on the liquid. I don't want on the solids. I don't want a ton of like floaties in my broth. I'd like it to be somewhat clear. So I'm not going to press too hard, but just trying to get as much of the broth out as I can reasonably. And I'm just going to put this in here, and I'm going to compost the rest. You can make like vegetable powder out of this, but from what I've read, most of the nutritional value is out of these vegetables by now. So I don't think that that would be very tasty or nutritious. So I'm just going to be composting the leftovers. So I'm going to be canning in quarts today, and I'm starting with 7 because that is the number that can fit in my Presto pressure canner. And so I'm just going to fill these jars to 1 inch of headspace. I've got 2 jars filled. I'm just going to check for headspace. That one's a little bit shy. There we go. And then I'm going to use just a little cloth and some white vinegar and clean off the rims of these jars. And while I'm cleaning off the rims, I'm just checking for any little nicks and cracks. These are new jars, so I'm not too worried, but just checking to make sure there aren't any nicks and cracks. And we'll just put the lid on, finger tight, and then put these into our canner. Now you can see I've gotten all of my jars in the canner. My canner will fit 7 quarts, and I'm just going to close the lid. It's over here, got it backward. Close the lid. And now I'm going to wait until the water in the bottom boils and I can see their steam coming out of here in a steady stream. So this is the steam vent, and I want to watch and see. Once it starts coming out of this vent in a steady stream, then I will set my timer for 10 minutes. I'm going to let this vent for 10 minutes, and then I'm going to add my weight. So just going to turn this around here. I am at 2,000 feet of elevation, so I need to make sure that my pressure is operating basically between 12 and 15 pounds. So I'm going to put the weight on, and then after the steam is shooting out for 10 minutes, and then wait until it comes up to 12 to 15 pounds, and then I'll just be adjusting the heat on my stove to keep it in that range. And then I'm going to process these for 35 minutes. That's what the recipe says. So I will come back to you when I'm putting the weight on, and then I'll show you the pressure dial and all of that. All right, you probably can't see very well, but there is a steady stream of steam coming out of this hole. You can kind of see that, and you can see the steam kind of coming up here, and I can't keep my hand over for very long, so I know there's plenty of steam coming out of here. It's a very thick stream, and it has been for the past 10 minutes. So that means all of the oxygen is purged out of the actual pressure canner, and we're safe to put on the weight. So I've got a weight here, and you can see my pressure dial, and I'm going to add the weight, and hopefully when I add it, you'll see this little pressure indicator pop up. So I'm going to put the weight on. And there it goes. So you can see this has lifted up, meaning that pressure, there's now positive pressure inside the canner. And we're going to start to see the dial here start to climb. So that process takes a couple minutes, so I'm not going to bore you with that. But basically this dial is going to climb up, and then you're going to keep the pressure to whatever pressure is indicated based on your elevation in your canner. So I'm at 2,000 feet of elevation, so I need to keep the pressure dial above 12 pounds. And you want to keep it below 15. So I am going to keep it from between 12 and 15. just by adjusting the heat on my stove. Once the pressure gets up to 12 pounds, I will set the timer. Since I am canning in quarts, the timer will be set for 35 minutes according to the recipe. So I'm going to wait until that pressure comes up, and then I'm going to set my timer. My timer has gone off of my second batch of vegetable broth. So once the timer went off, I just turned the stove off. I left this to cool down and come down in pressure on its own. I didn't touch it or anything. Once the pressure was all the way to 0, you wait 10 minutes or more, then remove the weight, and then we can open it after you remove the weight and waited 10 minutes. When you open it, you want to open it away from you, just in case there's some residual steam. And you can already hear that the jars are popping. So I'll show you guys into there. My second batch is just 4. And so I'm just going to lift them out with my jar lifter. And they're looking beautiful. And I'm just going to place them on a towel on my countertop. You want to make sure you have some kind of thing between the towel and your jars, because your countertop may be cold, and that can cause the jars to crack if it changes temperature too rapidly. So I always make sure I've got a towel down, and you can hear them popping already. That is how to make homemade vegetable broth. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate everybody who has been watching my videos and subscribing to my channel. It means the world to me. Thank you so much. And I hope that you follow this recipe. Again, I got it from the Ball Book of Home Preserving. I love that book. It's really easy to follow. It's got tons of great recipes. And I think the finished product is beautiful. So here we are. Our beautiful finished vegetable broth. I'll see you all again soon.